Strategy just sold $225 million worth of Bitcoin over the last 7 days. That's their biggest sale ever, and that's the company doing this who's built their entire identity on never selling. If you saw the thumbnail title, it's starting and clicked because you were wondering what's starting. Well, here it is. It's the sale. Authorization to sell up to $1.25 billion worth of Bitcoin more if they need to. So the question isn't did they sell? They did. The question now becomes, is it a one-time thing to cover their bills, to cover their dividends, or is it a start of the domino effect that's going to be much, much bigger? I'm going to be showing you exactly what happened. I'm going to be explaining to you why this is the worst possible moment for them to be doing this, and the one scenario where this turns into a real problem, not just a simple headline. So let's take a look at the actual numbers, because most of you already got an opinion before you even looked at the chart. Between June 29th and July 5th, Strategy sold 3,588 Bitcoin. That's somewhere around $216 million. This is their biggest sale to date. And the reason why they sold this isn't some grand strategic pivot, right? It's just to simply pay dividends on their preferred stock. They've got bills. Compare that to the last time they've sold anything back in May, it was 32 Bitcoin. 32. This is over 100 times bigger. And they've now got official authorization to sell up to $1.25 billion more if they need to. Now that they still have a amount of Bitcoin, well, yeah, they have over 800,000 Bitcoin still sitting in their reserves. So this one single sale isn't going to do anything by itself or nuke the markets, right? Nobody's going to be saying that. What I'm telling you is that you need to pay attention to the fact that they're selling it all, because never sell companies don't sell unless something is forcing them to. Now, here's the thing that actually has me scratching my brain a little, because this sale isn't happening randomly, right? It's landing right on top of everything else I've been talking about, this bounce being fragile as hell, because long-term holders are capitulating. ETF flows are only just barely turning positive. You can see that we had a single green day in weeks, right? We've got a hawkish Fed under Kevin Warsh, not giving markets a single easy answer on what's going to be happening. And now on top of all of this, one of the biggest corporate whales in the entire space is literally adding supply. Even if it's a small relative bag, it's still supply stacking on top of supply, right? This is exactly why I've been treating this 58,000 to 62,000, while 63,000 now bounce as a trap and not actually a reversal. A real reversal has strong institutional buying behind it, clean, obvious, unmistakable buying. And this is not it with Bitcoin right now. This looks like everyone is quietly selling while Twitter or X is telling you that everything is going to be fine. What happens if this isn't a one-off sell? What if strategy doesn't stop at $225 million and this becomes a monthly habit? Picture this. They start offloading a few thousand BTC every single month just to keep dividend machine running, right? And that's not market crashing event on its own, but it's definitely some weight added to the markets. A constant grinding weight sitting on top of price action, especially in a macro environment that's already literally range bound and dropping and directionless, is really bad. I mean, Saylor was one of the biggest buying powers during this entire bull run, right? He added millions upon millions of dollars in liquidity, and right now it's all reversing back. And this isn't really about the raw dollar amount. It's about psychology, right? Because Saylor is literally the guy. Saylor is the guy who never sells and buys the dip forever, essentially. So if he even gets backed into a corner where he is forced to sell, that, in my opinion, cracks something in everyone's head of every other corporate holder and every retail back holder telling themselves they will never sell either. You will start seeing people who were dead set never selling quietly deciding maybe they will sell. You get a feedback loop, right? This is essentially the biggest problem that I see with this. Because if Saylor is forced to sell, price drops, and this price drop makes it even harder for them to raise fresh capital through equity or preferred stock, which means they have to sell even more Bitcoin to cover their gap, which pushes the price down even further, round and round and round and round again. Are we there right now? Well, no. We're not even close. But if Bitcoin sits under $70,000 to $80,000 for an extended stretch of time and their cash reserves keep getting drained, this then stops being a hypothetical scenario and starts being an actual problem over the next 6 months. That being said, I'd want to be straight with you here. I'm not trying to turn one sale into the whole thesis. That's how you end up looking like a retard in the next 6 months, right? The bigger drivers for Bitcoin right now are still not Saylor, but ETF flows. Then we have the Fed and the overall risk appetite across markets generally. It's still secondary to those three things. One 225 million sale doesn't override months of ETF selling. This is exactly why I'm staying careful with Bitcoin right now rather than calling a reversal or calling this a bottom. You need to see actual improvements in the flows or actual clarity from the Fed before I change my mind. I need to see actual improvements on flows and actual clarity from the Fed before I even start to change my mind. So with that being said, strategy selling $220 million worth of Bitcoin is not going to single-handedly tank this entire market. But this for me is just another thing saying that the reversal that we're having right now, the floor that we're constructing right now is very fragile and probably won't hold. In my opinion, I would place this at a 60-40. 60% that this is nothing, that this won't impact the markets in any negative ways, that this stays at a control dip, something the market will shrug off later, and 40% that this is the start of something that could potentially be huge in the next few months.